Hello, adventure gamers, speed fiends, and moon logic enjoyers. Welcome back to the second annual Speedy Adventures Award Show, aka the Spaddies. Join us as we reflect on all the excitement that happened in the Speedy Adventures community in 2023. We hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at what makes this ragtag group of people into an amazing community. If this is your first time here, we hope you'll stick around and remember to stay cool, game big, and enjoy the show.
Let's go. Oh no, no, no. I was celebrating and I ran into him. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Here we go. All right, let's get a spin going. Hobbs Barrow's on here twice. Of note. Oh my, did I just call the shot? Is it just all Hobbs Barrow today? Yeah, it's the other one.
Okay, and we have the Woofs here. Congratulations on winning the second time in a row the Super Streamer Award.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's really cool. I didn't think I'd be able to run that back. That's very neat. I appreciate that.
So got three questions for you. Firstly, what was your favourite stream from 2023?
So I did some thinking about this, and it's tough to say because there's been a lot of variety this past year in the stream, which has been great. I would say like the best speedrunning moment that we had, our best speedrunning stream, was probably getting the Monkey Island 1 world record. I think that was kind of like the most hype thing. And that was a record that I think when I started that grind, I did not think I would ever get that. It was kind of specifically for a marathon. Like that was kind of the idea behind the whole thing. So that was awesome to get that. And kind of honorable mention was the Colossal Cave grind. I thought I had a lot of fun with that as well. But as far as non-speedrunning goes, it probably was the cheese soda, despite how I reacted to drinking that. That was like kind of an amazing stream moment. But yeah, that was both painful but fun. And it was sort of like a bit of a game-changing sort of event on the stream that like gave me a lot of inspiration to be like, okay, I can do things other than speedrun as well on here. Like it kind of felt like not necessarily like hurt myself, but like, you know, like there's other things that I can do. I don't know if I like this at all. I think this is actually a bit of an abomination at the moment. And then, yeah, the only part of the stream lately has been like the first playthrough stuff. So I think from a numbers standpoint, the Fate of Atlantis playthrough was like the most successful. But I think the Toonstruck and Broken Sword playthroughs were both like, I don't know, really, really fun for me. The Hobbs Barrow one as well was awesome. That game was so good. So that was a lot of fun to do.
Viewers definitely enjoyed the cheese soda. It was definitely a high point from the viewing perspective.
Yeah, it popped off. It was definitely, it was awesome. Yeah, there were a lot of people kind of in there and yeah, it was interesting. I still have the can. Oh, it's over here. Like, kind of sitting on the shelf of shame back there. It's pretty interesting. Couldn't part with it. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Second question. So you developed a lot as a streamer over 2023. How much of that was planned, or how much of it just sort of happens on the fly?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm like the stream has evolved quite a bit, especially last year. I don't know. The process for the whole thing is it's mostly organic. You know, there's some big things that I will plan ahead of time. So like the soda thing was planned. Like I knew I was going to do that. The first place stuff, like that is planned in advance. And like the changes to the wheel that happened last year, that was like a thing that I was working on for like a month or two. But the rest of it, which is the majority of it, is sort of on the fly. It's very like organic. Like I try to read the room and sort of trust my gut on what I think is going to be fun to do for people watching. But like more than anything, very selfishly perhaps, is like I only do stuff that like is really fun to me. So that like will change on an hourly basis of like what I'm feeling like doing. But yeah, like the games that I play and like the things that I do are all sort of like, you know, oftentimes decided right before the stream starts or like kind of the day of. There is some sort of like overarching thing that I like I'm oftentimes planning. Like I've got like some stuff that I'd like to do down the line, but because of the way my schedule works and like kind of other things in my life, it's sort of like we kind of grab them as they come up. And then, when chat's usually having fun watching something, I'm usually having fun watching, like doing it. And so then that like we'll stretch it or do whatever we need to do. So it is kind of a fluid situation, but it's I would say most of it is on the fly. And like if things are clicking, I'll continue to do them or I'll implement them in a different way. But yeah, it was a really good year for the channel.
Awesome. And then final question. So other people are going to want this award too. What advice would you give to other Speedy adventurers who might want to stream?
Yeah, I think it's probably just like, do not overthink streaming. Do not overthink it. Particularly if you're trying to do adventure game speedruns and you're trying to stream them, like you're in the right place, because I feel like the Speedy Adventures community is incredibly supportive of people doing the runs. And especially if you're streaming them, you can count on at least some of us to be there like almost every stream, I feel like watching you and cheering you on. If you're starting a stream and you're like, I don't know, all the bells and whistles, the notifications and the sound things and like, I don't know, all the kinds of crazy stuff people do on Twitch. Like if that's like overwhelming or intimidating, like you definitely don't have to do any of that. Like some of the best streams are super simple. Right before we were doing this, I was kind of lurking in Mike's stream, and you might have been as well, Casey. But basically, like some of those streams are super stripped down. Like Mike and Santa are two people that I like watch pretty regularly. That literally just have a timer up, they have the game up, and they just play the game. And then in between the game, they like will chat back to people in chat. So you can literally pull it back to bare bones and have a very successful stream. And then you can take the steps as you're comfortable with it. But yeah, the one thing that I think has been really good with my stream is that like I started with kind of a similar setup where it was kind of just the basics. And then as things kind of went through there, I got confidence. And then, there were things that I was like, oh, this would be nice to have now that I'm like kind of got my feet wet. And then we added in, and like it's been a building it piece by piece. And it's like still kind of changing stream to stream and stuff. So anyways, I just think that like, don't overthink it. The whole reason that I'm like streaming still today, I like started in 2020, is because like a few people from Speedy Adventures showed up, and like I was expecting them to be like, you stink, because I didn't know these people. It was just people rolling up to see the stream. But everyone's like, you need to keep doing it. Like that was really fun. Like the game was cool. Like we want you to keep speedrunning. And that's the kind of people that are in the community. So like, don't be afraid of that. I'll always kind of encourage you. And so, yeah, we're here now. Very gratefully accepting this award, which is bonkers, but I'm very happy about that.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, and congratulations once again, the Woofs, for winning the Super Streamer Award.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it, everybody.
All right, so I am here with Sluicebox, the winner of the Speedy Adventures Behind the Scenes Award. Hello, Sluicebox. Thank you for meeting with me.
Thank you. And thank you, Speedy Adventures. And I can't wait to find out what the cash value of this prize is for my income tax.
I'll let FrozenSpade let you inform you on that one. We just want to talk about this decompiler that you made for a few moments. So what is it? What is a decompiler, and specifically the SCI decompiler that you made? What does it do?
So in 1988, Sierra invented their own programming language to write their games in, and it was just called Script, and it was made by Jeff Stevenson, and they also wrote a compiler to turn those text files that they wrote in their own language into bytecode, and that's what ships with the games. And what I've done is written a decompiler that turns all of that bytecode back into source code that looks approximately like the original, and that's thanks to Sierra's decision to include lots of internal names of their programming words in the games, even though the games didn't require that. So that was very nice of them, and because they did that, we can produce really nice source code.
Gotcha. So in short, it lets us understand the code better, and it lets us, I guess that's maybe a good way of putting it. It lets us go into the code and understand it sort of on a more intuitive level so that we're not having to decipher a bunch of nonsense.
It lets us finally get the answers to questions like, what are the rules of this game? What was I supposed to click? And you can also find a bunch of things in there that maybe somebody slipped in and didn't expect anybody to find.
Talk me through the process of making this decompiler. How difficult was it? How long did it take you to make things like that?
Well, I think it was pretty hard. It took 2 attempts. And the first one took about a month and didn't produce any decompiled code and didn't produce anything remotely close to a decompiler. It produced a lot of pieces and a lot of notes to myself that looked like a crazy person had written them. So I felt like I was farther away than when I started. So I shelved the whole thing and came back to it a year later. I was encouraged to find out later that Phil, who'd written the first public SCI decompiler for SCI Companion, I later learned that he also shelved his decompiler for a year and then came back to it. So that made me feel good. But I think it's pretty hard.
Gotcha. And then finally, what is the value to speedrunners? How is this useful? What can speedrunners use this to do?
Well, I actually need a moment to think about that.
It's because we can see how the games work and then we can break them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. Well, it's my understanding that you crazy people come at this from the outside and just, click as fast as you can on everything, just endlessly, right? But there's another approach that you can do if you really want to understand how these games work so that you can find how to break this software. You can approach it from the inside. And so you might do something like click somewhere, find that something weird happens. Now you can look at it from the inside, try to figure out what that weird thing was, maybe understand the ramifications of it a bit more, maybe find other places where that same kind of code exists and, work from there. So you should be able to find new and exciting ways to break these things and just defy everyone's expectations for how software is supposed to be used.
Excellent. Well, thank you from me and thank you from the Speedy Adventures community. Congratulations on your award, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and now let's leave before the government comes after us.
Alrighty, everybody. I have here with me Zergu, winner of the Smash and Grab Award, for all of your work in the Monkey Island 1 speedrunning. And the first question I wanted to ask you was, what first attracted you to speedrunning Monkey Island 1?
Well, the first time it came into my head was Awesome Waves was streaming it, and I was already following him, so I clicked, and then I got kind of hooked on watching him running it. And then at some point I googled the history and saw the OneShortEye video, and that was a very good video. But yeah, Awesome Waves is basically my gateway into even contemplating running it.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. He's a very entertaining streamer, Awesome Waves, and OneShortEye. Additionally, shout outs to his work on that video.
Yeah, that and the Monkey 2 video are some of the best speedrun documentary content I've seen.
Yeah, we're very proud of it from the whole Speedy Adventures community of the work they've done. And second question I had for you is, what did you enjoy most about speedrunning Monkey Island 1?
I like being able to skip the text and the cutscenes. That removes a lot of the boring aspects of running a game. The speed glitch is fantastic. It makes everything faster and therefore more fun. Sword fighting is really cool. It has a really high skill ceiling. It comes down to your reaction times in the end. How quickly can you react to getting the correct answer in front of you? Yeah, I think sword fighting is my favorite aspect. And I like Schmovement because it gives you something to do during bits that would be boring otherwise. There's usually something you can do to optimize, no matter if you're just traveling across the game or whatever.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of depth there, kind of under the surface with the Monkey Island speedrunning. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's always good to have a movement trick in any speed game because there's no downtime then. You've always got something to do.
Yeah, it is ends up being kind of a hands-on speed run. And I wanted to ask you another question. It's been a while, so do you have any intentions of coming back to speedrunning more Monkey Island 1 or any other adventure games in the future?
I intend to get my records back if somebody beats them. I'd like to improve no credit early record at some point. I tried Monkey 2, but I didn't enjoy it as much. I might do that in the future. Basically, I'm a casual adventure gamer, and I just chose Monkey Island because when I first started looking for what to speedrun, I got the advice that you should just run the games you love. And it's good advice because they're the games that you have the patience to get good at. Like Monkey 1 is kind of a special game from my childhood. Monkey 2 a little bit, but the other games in the series, not really for me. So yeah, I'll come back to Monkey 1 when there's some competition. I may get into Monkey 2 in the future, but other than that, I don't think so.
All right, that sounds great. Looking forward to that. So what skills from outside of point-and-click adventure game speedruns did you find helpful in your Monkey Island speedrunning?
Well, I used to be good at Quake 2, which is an FPS game. I used to be good at StarCraft 2, which is an RTS game. And I think the mouse precision from playing those games helped. And just being familiar with the execution of frame-perfect tricks from Final Fantasy speedrunning prepared me for stuff I had to learn in this game. And memorizing the route was a lot easier because it's the short run, it's half an hour speed run, so it wasn't a huge barrier to entry to learn it. And pre-aiming is a Counter-Strike skill, which you use all the time on Monkey 1, which is preemptively having your crosshair where you'll need it next, or in Monkey 1, your cursor, just aiming it in preparation for the next screen. So yeah, all that is stuff I'd used in other games.
Yeah, that's great to hear how you and lots of speedrunners can bring all sorts of different gaming skills to their speedruns. That's great. So getting to the heart of the matter, here's the big question. In your opinion, what helped contribute to your rise to the top of the Secret of Monkey Island leaderboard?
I tend to play games obsessively when I get into them. I'm sure that helped. I just grind all the way to the top if I can. But also I felt like I could get the record before I even started running it because Awesome Waves got really close and his run had mistakes in it. So I was already thinking maybe I could do this eventually sort of thing. So that helped, I'm sure. And Leo Litz's tutorial on YouTube is how I picked up the entire run basically. And then I watched his Swordmaster % run and kind of sniped his strategy off that because he went in with just 5 answers. And that was like the first time it occurred to me that I could only have 5 and still pass Tyler. That's where I got the inspiration for the new Swordmaster strat. And having that new strat gave me a big edge over the Woofs because he did the old strat and it was bad luck as well. Very slow section. So knowing that I could save so much time there gave me the confidence to push for it, I think. And then just people being supportive in the community, like sharing info to make me faster and encouraging me when I do something good. You don't get that in every game, surprisingly.
Well, happy to hear an endorsement for our Speedy Adventures community. I think we do a good job there. And thanks for your time, and congratulations once again on smashing the Monkey Island 1 speedrun. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Spade. Thanks for the shout out.
And this section in Razier is going to be the reason why most runners do not run this version of the game, because Razier is pretty infamous. You're going to get there on mid-afternoon of day 27, but the plot cannot advance until you go to sleep in your room, and your room does not open until night. So if you just wait for time to pass, it's normally going to take about 4 minutes for that to do.
All right, but this is also the game that we do not have a skip for, so I am very disappointed in us. I've been trying to break this game. We have mega skips for the first game, both the EGA and VGA. We have a mega skip for the second game's original. We have a mega skip for the third game. We have mega skips for the fifth game, but
4 has proved, even though it had the reputation as being a complete buggy mess whenever it came out, it does have a particularly robust engine that does not allow us to break it, even though we start in the final dungeon of the game, which is just incredible.
There's in fact no way you can find around it. See, it's all... Oh, wait. Oh, hang on. Something... That's not good. Uh-oh. Oh. Oh, looks like we got captured by Adavis already. So, you know what that means? That means no Domovoy, no doll... No saving poor Davy, no gnome, no good humor bar. Woo! The thorns in our side for the collection run, for running the entire collection of Quest for Glory 1 through 5, was a 6-minute wait in Quest for Glory 2's Razir. You basically, there's no faster way to play the game than having to sit around, basically just stand there for several minutes and wait until the next part of the game started. So we, late last year, discovered a way to basically warp zones in the desert. There's a giant desert in that game, and we figured out a way to warp to different places. Not only were we able to skip this horrible Razir wait that we were used to doing, you can also just warp right to the end of the game, to the credits. So there's no more real game. In fact, now the fastest version of the game has a wait in the desert that's kind of boring. So we did it. It all came around. And then Quest for Glory 4, yeah, it turns out there was a way to skip basically, I don't know, what would you say, a third of the story or something like that?
So we have to sacrifice Donkey Kong over here. Everyone in the Quest for Glory community is like going nuts. Going bananas. We skipped some old favorites for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there was basically, 20 minutes of going through the game as you're supposed to. Unlike pretty much every other game in the series, we had found bigger skips, and this one we kind of were just following the basic stuff. Late last year, Kane, amazing runner. Relentless and exact about everything he does. Found several fairly big skips and many minor optimizations, like going out of bounds in the swamp and the rover camp skip, good boy skip. Hat skip was a huge one. But this one basically let us jump to a room that, if you get into that room, the dungeon of the castle, it assumes you have done a whole lot of other things to get there. And it turns out just the door to that room was still functioning, even though in the actual game you can never use it because it's being guarded. Because in the normal course of the game, you only enter the dungeon being caught by one of the, antagonists of the game. It assumes that's what happened. So it assumes you're at that point in the game. If you entered this room now, you are tied up in the dungeon, and Adavis is, casting sleep spells on you. And you're telling Katrina you love her.
How did you use the decompiled SCI code to find some of the mega skips?
When I got my hands on the decompiled code and got some help from the community on how to read it and how to organize it, I really got into all the different webs of connections in the game that I think Kane was looking at more one screen at a time. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I was really I was really fascinated by the whole structure of the game and learning how it fits together and what makes it tick. And a lot of the well, pretty much everything that I had a hand in finding was related to seeing it in the code, because it lets you find potential holes in the string of flags that takes you through the game, and it lets you see the tech behind crazy fake pseudo rooms like the desert in Quest for Glory 2, stuff that I would never be able to intuit out. I think one of the things I think is really important to skip hunting is never consider anything to be impossible. Just like, what if we could do this? I know we can't do this, but what if we could do this? What if we could? What would need to happen for that? And I found, like, every time we said, you know what, this is impossible, it's not going to happen, we got to move on, oftentimes, a month later, it turns out, no, it does work, it just works a different way, or something like that. So for all you potential speed skip hunters out there, don't give up. Never say never.
What got you into speedrunning Monkey Island 2? And what prompted the cataloging of all the fastest times?
Oh, stumble into the Woof stream, get introduced to Speedy Adventures, start running yourself. Can only recommend it. My speedrunning roots are in the Link to the Past community, sharing gold splits, making theory tasks for practice, and comparing times run by run were a big thing over there, at least since the arrival of the practice ROM hack. There's a huge database of strats and times. In Monkey Island 2, I got to the point where it was getting hard to find places to improve in my run, but I knew I was consistently slower than the other runners during certain segments. That's when I was really starting to wish we had resources like I knew from my Link to the Past days. So I started cataloguing the available runs and segmenting them up further and further. Eventually, homing in on the details like that helped me to figure out exactly what there was to get better at. I picked up a lot more of mouse dialogue and mouse skip techniques, things that I hadn't really given enough of a chance before. I also finally learned how to do stands properly and how to give the lens to Wally, among other tiny optimizations.
What was it that clued you in to the idea of schmovement?
There's the famous Cemetery Hill, where speedrunners have been spamming clicks to go faster for a long time. Nobody seemed to really know what was going on there, just that it saves time. I was curious how it works and tried to apply it to some other sloped areas in the game. It worked.
How did you go about figuring out the ins and outs of schmovement?
Brute force experimentation, aka I started making a task. At first I just applied what we knew at the time to movement everywhere, clicking on and off hotspots, and timed whether it was faster or slower. At some point I started to measure Guybrush's movement speed by looking at his coordinates in ScumVM's debug output. Seeing the numbers made me realise that what we are doing is resetting the movement cycle. The fact that the tech works incredibly similarly to Link to the Past's wall pumping is what helped me understand the direction you are moving in makes a difference. From here, it was just more trial and error to figure out how to send Guybrush onto a different path with every click while still moving towards your destination in all the different areas.
What was the process of making the Monkey Island 2 tasks like?
To make a task, you play the game frame by frame. Look at each individual frame of gameplay and decide what the optimal input is, then record it. Use lots of save states to try different outcomes and redo everything over and over until you think you have something that resembles optimal gameplay. At the end, you let the computer play back all your recorded inputs and are rewarded with a complete run and the feeling of satisfaction. I learned a lot about the little details of the game's mechanics, things that I probably wouldn't have figured out any other way. I also kind of doubled the amount of work by making the decision to manually add mouse cursor movements. Those are technically just for decoration, but I thought it made it easier to understand what's going on for the viewer.
And we are here with Totem. We're going to talk about the discovery of the year, the mega skip in The Curse of Monkey Island. Now, Totem, you're no stranger to making discoveries in Curse of Monkey Island. In fact, this isn't your first bit of discovery. What was the first one, and do you remember how it was discovered?
Well, hello, thank you for having me. My first proper discovery was in October 2022, something I called Sipping, which was on Blood Island Beach. And it was a small time save, like 2 or 3 seconds, so I didn't use it in runs anymore. About 5 days after finding that, I made my first huge discovery, which was inventory buffering, which basically allowed Guybrush to walk while the inventory is still open. And yeah, I don't know exactly how much time it saves, but it must be around a minute. And I know after making a discovery, I started finding uses for it, and we got the time down from like Sub 18 to Sub 17 within 10 days or so. And I found out about that just accidentally. I'm pretty sure it was an accident because I just made a few extra clicks. Like I usually click a lot more than the average person. I don't know, just because it's something I'm used to doing. And it was an entire accident.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy that such a big bit of tech for the run now was just completely by accident. But that did, it really changed the game. So thank you for that. And so getting to the heart of the matter, when you first kind of discovered that first crypt warp, do you remember what you had gone in looking for originally?
Yeah, so there's actually like 2 parts to the story. First, it was in March 2023. I was just trying to find a way to skip past Murray. I think I already knew you could walk past him by interacting with the ship a bunch. So you would have a voice line that keeps playing. But it still didn't let you into the ship, even though you could walk past Murray. So I was messing around with that, and then I tried inhaling the balloon, which plays an animation. And then when you went into the ship, you were in a glitch state, which could be used to move while an animation plays. I think it's just using the Grand Mega Monkey record. And that also causes one of the funniest glitches in the game, which makes it so Guybrush can just walk anywhere on the screen. So there's no boundaries at all. And then in the Plunder Island map, Guybrush just becomes huge, absolutely massive, but still a mega skip. The second part was actually in June, and I don't really remember why, but I was messing around with this glitch I had found, trying to make it work for the speedrun in some way. And that's when I found that in this glitch state, you're able to gain control in the crypt cutscene. And I do have to say the mega skip itself, the one that is used in normal runs, wasn't entirely my discovery, so I have to credit Seal for finding how to stay permanently in the crypt, and Osmosis Jones for finding out that you could make the skip work in normal runs. And I'm not sure if it was you, Spade, that found out you could just talk to Stan, and the game assumes you have the gold tooth.
No, that was also
That was him.
Osmosis Jones, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a joint effort.
Yeah, that's great. I remember I was trying to find ways to make it work in Mega Monkey, but to no avail. But yeah, a community effort all around. That's super cool.
For sure.
You'll have to hear that. And so next question I had for you is there any other tricks you've been thinking about, you hope that might get discovered in The Curse of Monkey Island, or maybe even other adventure games?
So that's a good question. I'll say one for Curse, since it's the one I know the most. I hope someone finds a way to skip past the towel section on the Plunder Island Beach Club. That would be really great to see.
Yeah, I know we've theorized about that one, but I haven't found a way
we tried a lot.
across. That would be a pretty big find. 20, 30 seconds maybe, do you think?
Yeah.
And I did want to ask you one more thing. Is there any upcoming speedruns from you that we can be expecting to look out for?
I don't know if we have any coming up, like right now. I've been playing a lot of GeoGuessr, so I'm not really haven't been speedrunning that much. But I definitely want to take my course record back. That's something I have pending for the last couple of months. So yeah, that's definitely something I want to end this year for sure. Maybe not right now, but definitely soon. I want to come back to the game, especially since there have been some discoveries that have been made recently. So yep. Yeah,
lots of work to be done in Curse of Monkey Island. Good luck on your quest to beat High Performance's world record. It's not an easy task, but hope to see more speedrunning from you soon in the future. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, hello, KCadventure. Welcome, and congratulations on winning the Cheerleader Award. Round of applause. So the first question we have for you, how did you first hear about Speedy Adventures?
Yeah, this is interesting. Was trying to remember this. I followed a whole bunch of adventure game related media and creators, including Laura Cressup, who people may know from various interviews. And she started streaming on Twitch, and through a series of raids, I ended up in a WooF stream, watching, I think it was Monkey Island 2, maybe even Monkey Island 2 Special Edition, but it was some sort of Monkey Island 2 speedrun. And I remember thinking that this was a ridiculous idea, and also slightly thinking that, I know everything about Monkey Island. And I spent the next a couple of hours being amazed by saying all the different things, the little tricks and things that I never even knew was possible. It was a real sort of eye-opening moment. And then through the woofs found the Speedy Adventures community and got to meet lots of other people with lots of amazing revelations about all these sorts of games that I loved. And so that was just wonderful.
For our second question, what is it that you love about adventure games on the whole?
Yeah, this is interesting. There's a wonderful video called something like Who Killed Guybrush Threepwood on genre and adventure games. And it's sort of about how the genre works. And it's about how you're interacting, how you're interfacing with the game. Less so about technical skill, of which I have very, very little, and more so around the designers of the games putting forward ideas. They could be funny, they could be philosophical, they could be any sort of things, but it's more to do about with thinking about the ideas that are being presented, and that is something that I really like. I think games are very interesting as a medium for the sorts of potential, the ideas they can get across, the stories they can tell, the experiences they can show. And yeah, I am absolutely about seeing a game do something new and something interesting and telling a story that's not been told before. And there is way, way more scope for that within the adventure game genre than I think any other genre. I just love it for that.
Yeah, it's great. It's one of the longest lasting kind of genres of video games, and I think they've had a lot of time to figure it out and to explore many different angles. That's great. And the next question I had for you is, despite being a speedrunner in your own right, it seems you can always be found watching other speedrunners. And what is up with that?
Yeah, I realized pretty early on that I absolutely love following the stories of the different speedrunners, because whenever you see someone new dropping into Speedy Adventures community, and they start to do runs, it's watching the start of a journey. It's you see discoveries, you see the drama. I'm a big believer in this, there being this wonderful drama of, it could be the 8th place on the leaderboard. It doesn't need to be a world record. It doesn't need to be a PB. It could be any sort of run. But there will be highs and lows. There will be stuff where the runner is really pleased with what they did, and stuff where they just messed it up completely. And that drama, I think, is really interesting and really enjoyable and really fun. And all the runners are fab. I have really enjoyed watching that journey and that discovery as runners get faster and faster at a game and find out more about it and improve. And I've really enjoyed just listening to them and being there alongside. It's just great. It's just really, really great fun. Yeah, for that reason, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I know I appreciate you being the community cheerleader, and I'm sure all the other speedrunners do as well. We're so happy to have you in this community. And a final question for you. When can we expect the return of KCadventure speedruns?
Yeah, this is something that I think about so often. There's 2 things that I want to do. Firstly is that my escape, obviously it would be going back to escape, but it's so close to a minute barrier and it's just not under, and I would need to, the longer I leave it, the more I would need to sort of practice and de-rust and get back to that level. But with the tiny little things that have been discovered since, I know Santa's found a few things, and it really is looking quite enticing to get back into that. And then I've also been slightly thinking about, there's a Fort Boyard game that was run at a GDQ, I think, recently, and it looked really fun. And it's a similar thing of just there's random puzzles and some randomization in there, and so you do partly have to just memorize what you need to do, but also need to think on your feet, which is an aspect that I really like from the escape run. That sort of the flexibility and adjusting to the run as you go is something that I'd want to capture again. So there might be more escape runs coming at some point, hopefully, but there might also be some Fort Boyard runs coming at some point, so maybe look out for them as well.
That sounds very interesting, sounds very cool, and I eagerly await your return, and thank you so much. And one more time, congratulations on winning the Cheerleader Award.
Oh, thank you very much.
What brought you into Speedy Adventures? I stumbled upon FrozenSpade a couple years ago during a GDQ hotfix show, Time Capsule 1990, and I was instantly drawn in as Monkey Island was being run. This was the first point and click I was introduced to back in the day on an Amiga 500. A couple of days later, I ended up in both Spades and the Wolf's stream, and the rest is history. What are your favorite kinds of images to make? I'll dabble with anything, but the majority of the image-related stuff I like to do is usually cobbling custom and themed overlays together and helping streamers build them into OBS. Are you tempted to do more adventure game speedrunning yourself? I've toyed with the idea, but I'm still on the fence for now. The closest I've gotten so far as speedrunning goes is Super Smash TV on the Super Nintendo. If it did happen, I would possibly choose Monkey Island 2 or maybe Conquest of the Longbow, 2 favorites of mine.
Tish, potent ale indeed. My head spins.
what do you like about Conquest of the Longbow? Very, very open-ended here, but I am curious what kind of kept you coming back to it.
I played quite a few Sierra games back in the day, and this is easily my favorite one. Almost every screen is just like beautiful. It's like a painting. There are so many things to interact. There's so many interesting things to learn about each screen you're on, each character, just by trying like different stuff. And it's that sense of exploration and immersion, which I just love it. It's amazing. But it's also kind of great fun just to push the game, just like see what it does, what it can do. If you like there are some really obscure interactions that you can do, like testing your hand, that you've got the fire immunity, you can use your hand, things like that just like, it's just full of stuff like that.
Prior to this, this period where we all started viewing it through the lens of speedrunning, before all of that, you were already putting the game through its paces, so to speak.
I had done. I think it was like one particular revisit of this game. I wasn't like playing it over and over again, like all the time. It was just when I got it on GOG, I thought, why don't I just really explore this game properly? And that's, I learned some stuff then, like the Blackberries, for example. So that was something I could immediately contribute to the speedrunning.
Right,
before I got involved.
I was gonna ask that. See, you just knew that, like you were watching us all like I guess muck about in the game, and you just knew based on prior work on this game, like these guys should just do the berry bush instead.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know for sure that it would be faster. I had a very strong suspicion that it would be, because I booted up the game and I was like, well, they're not that far away from anywhere, and you definitely skip the soldiers. So I was like, you guys should probably do that.
Oh yeah, it was painful. There was a lot that was painfully slow about the game that's just not there anymore. So why do you think it's such a good speed game?
So it's incredibly smooth and fun to play, especially when you play it in unthrottled Quad VM. The frame rate is extremely fast, and the execution is pretty brutal. So it's continual execution. So you have to concentrate, and there's only like 3 or 4 times in the entire speedrun where you get a little bit of a break, I'd say. And so I love that. There's something about getting a chain of inputs and mousings, pointings and clickings, whatever they are. When you get a chain of those in a row, you get a nice combo. It's so satisfying.
So for the OneShortEye video on the game Conquest of the Longbow, you played Robin and got a lot of really positive feedback on that. Everyone said you were fantastic. Had you done acting or voice acting before then?
No, I hadn't. Not done anything, no. And actually, I was kind of surprised at... I wasn't necessarily surprised at people's reactions, because I think it was... it turned out quite well, but I was quite pleased that I was able to make it turn out so well. And I don't... I'm not saying it's perfect or anything, but I think that I'd like to, I would like to redo a couple of lines maybe. But it was, I think, I've looked at kind of what certain actors do. Like I've watched a lot of Star Trek: The Next Generation, for example. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Patrick Stewart, the way that he delivers, and I'm not saying that I'm comparable, but I basically just tried to emulate that type of voice. I didn't do an exact impersonation, but trying to say a really a powerful kind of commanding voice. And so that was my sort of inspiration of the style of the way that I was delivering. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased that people liked it. Yeah.
Can you use a bow and arrow in real life too?
I think the answer to that's probably yes. Like in the sense that I have tried it before, in like fairs and stuff. And I think when I was in my teens, I did have a bow and arrow actually, and I don't think I was very good at it. When you say as well, I mean we don't really use a bow in the speedrun anyways.
thanks to you, I think we use it like once now?
Yeah, we use it once. Yeah, I think before I came along, we used it twice.
You have figured out exactly how to skip certain text boxes. You figured out when to have Robin walk across the screen using Enter versus left click. All that little stuff. So I'm kind of curious how you went about that. Was that methodical, or was it really just, you did a deep dive in the game and just before you knew it, like you had mapped out all this really optimal stuff for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I did those is that as you get more and more optimized, you start to realize, well, I'm trying so hard to save this 1 second with execution. Is there some way of optimizing that? So even if you get 0.5 seconds of improvement somewhere else, that becomes a lot when you've optimized it a lot. So that's kind of, as you get closer and closer to what is the theoretical fastest time, those kind of things become more and more significant. So, and for me, I almost value them as much as the big skips, because I think in my head of this kind of, theoretical fastest time, and anything that gets you closer to that is just as worthy as anything else, pretty much.
All right, well, Snowy, congrats again, and on behalf of everybody in Longbow speedrunning, thank you for all the contributions, and like just everything, like all the little fun facts, goofy glitches, like they're all a delight.
Oh, thanks, Hugh. Well, thank you very much, and all the other members of the community. It's absolutely been awesome. Yeah, and I definitely would not have bothered to share anything or try at all if it wasn't for you lots. Yeah, there's that's really the main thing that does it, is the community, and yeah, so thanks very much.
What run are you most proud of? 1248 for Mad Dog Williams, any %, no save glitches. Mad Dog is a really fun speed game. It has a high skill cap and a lot of cool tech, and a bit of RNG to spice it up. I grinded Mad Dog Williams almost daily for 5 or 6 weeks, and the culmination of that was the 1248, a run with great RNG, gold splits, all the tightest execution, and though I did make a couple of small mistakes near the end, it was still the run. And then I discovered I could save 20 seconds by tweaking my emulator settings a bit, but in my heart, the 1248 is still the world record. Another run I was particularly happy with was my Signal and Echo short challenge run, because Signal and Echo really pushed me out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone is the keyboard. The mouse is not my strength at all, and my biggest weak point is using both the mouse and keyboard at once. There are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that we have some amazing talents in the community. When you look at folks like Kane or Plank or David TKI, you would swear they're aliens with a third hand, with how effortlessly they switch between mouse and keyboard. So they make me with my 2 hands look stupidly slow by comparison. But it's also a problem spot for me because I normally play with the keyboard in my lap, and that means I always have to reach for the mouse. In Signal and Echo, you can't play that way. It has a lot of mousing and a lot of places where you need the mouse immediately after typing. So I had to put the keyboard on the desk and flick and dual wield, and I was happy and a bit surprised that I won that competition. What advice would you give to anyone else who wants to be the speediest? Play the games you enjoy. Don't get discouraged if you are nowhere near the records when starting out. If you are, well, that's an amazing sign and probably means you're going to smash that game and likely some others. But if you are not, that means nothing. With time and practice, you can catch up and overtake. Figure out where it is you're losing time and why. If it's a skill issue, work on it. If it's an issue with your computer or game settings or emulator settings or the version of the game you're playing with, treat it as a skill issue and work on it, and then solve the underlying problem, and it will be where you're gaining time. Relatedly, don't be afraid to ask for help from others, especially if you're unsure why you're losing time. It could be a hidden tech nuance or a problem unrelated to your gameplay, but also be unafraid to question old wisdom and old route choices. Sometimes the easiest road to a record is outsmarting previous players instead of outplaying them. And new tech improvements are constantly being discovered, and doing your own routing is also great in terms of teaching you what the backup is if you're thrown off route or forget things. I'd say practice all the hardest tech even if you think it's too crazy to go for in an actual run, because that way, the actual tech feels easy and it takes the edge off your nerves. Finally, never be satisfied with a run just because it's a new world record. Push it lower, push yourself to your limit, kill the category, and then come back and kill it again and again. Categories are vampires. They do not stay dead. Which runs might you be looking at in 2024? An obvious one is revisiting Police Quest 1 and going for sub 20 in any percent. It's an AGI game, and AGI games underwent a bit of a revolution in 2023 with two broadly applicable major discoveries: Rob's help page tech and Gamer Tom's discovery that you could peek at the values of internal game variables. And the old record for Police Quest 1, which is 2035, doesn't have them implemented yet. I think Police Quest 1 is actually the odd AGI game that doesn't support help tech, but variable lookup will be huge for mitigating the brutal wait RNG. Also on my to-do list is checking out the winter edition of Stair Quest, Sub 7 for Super Sleuth and Colonel's Bequest, finally revisiting the RNG nightmare that is King's Quest 2 100%, revisiting King's Quest 1 SCI Hundo, revisiting Conquest of Camelot, Sub 18 for Quest for Glory 2 Fighter Hundo, and a full sweep of all AGI records, which means visiting Mixed Up Mother Goose, and I suppose, technically, Donald Duck's Playground too.
Thank you everybody so much for watching. I'd once again like to shout out all the award winners in no particular order. The Super Streamer Award going to the Woofs. The Smash and Grab Award going to Zergu. The Community Effort Award going to the Quest for Glory series. The Behind the Scenes Award going to Sluicebox. The Community Support Award going to Creloce. The Discovery of the Year Award going to Mega Skip from Curse of Monkey Island. The Mad Scientist Award going to Miketheviewer. The Cheerleader Award going to KCadventure. The One with a Game Award going to Snowy. And the Speediest Adventurer going to SantaClaus. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all the people who were involved in putting this show together. OneShortEye, KCadventure, Lemming, Creloce, and myself. And additionally, I'd like to thank all of those kind people who took the time to speak with us for this show, in no particular order: Miketheviewer, Zergu, Totem, the Woofs, Snowy, Sluicebox, SantaClaus, Swimfan, KC, and Creloce. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you again next year.